How's it going, ladies and gents? Just thought I would pop in with an overview of Everton's last two results. A 1-0 loss at home against Leeds United and a 1-all draw at Turf Moor against Burnley. For this one, it will be me on my own dolo, so if you'd prefer not to look at my ugly mush, you can jump over to podcasts because I'll be uploading it in a podcast format for you to listen there. Now, where do you start with this? Everton's best start to a season in 126 years, after 7 straight consecutive wins in all competitions, seems to have taken a bit of a dive in regards to the feel-good factor. I don't think people are jumping up and down now and singing about the possibility of winning the league, which I don't think was expected anyway, to be honest. But it has been slightly concerning in regards to the nature of the poor results and the defeats that we've seen. Obviously, you look at the losses against Southampton and Newcastle and United and these last two results, and sandwiched in between that a very fortunate 3-2 win at Fulham. But before delving into the two games themselves, I think one of the things I take away from the recent poor form is that Everton really seem to struggle to accommodate for the loss of either Richarlison, Luca Digne, who's unfortunately now out for 2 months with an ankle injury, James Rodriguez, or Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Touch wood, the lad doesn't get injured, because he's continuing this terrific start to the season, which is one of the positives I would say to take out of the poor run, is that the lad is still being very productive in regards to his run of form. I think he's averaging a goal every other game in the league since Carlo Ancelotti took over, something like 16 goals in 30 league games since Ancelotti took the post as manager, which I don't think anybody expected. So before dwelling on the negatives, there are positives such as that to take from it. But as I say, the absence of in particular Richarlison and Luca Digne certainly seems to be felt by the side, as Carlo's taken it upon himself to switch systems and formations. We now seem to be rolling as a 3-4-3, which I know quite a few people aren't a fan of. Now, to look at the Leeds game first, which I have to say on a personal note was one of the most infuriating games to watch in recent years as an Evertonian, simply because it was such a high tempo and frantic game, with both sides creating so many different chances that ultimately my side, Everton, didn't take any of theirs. I've just had a quick rewatch of the game there, and at the time I wasn't as annoyed with the fact that Everton had 2 goals chalked off. James Rodriguez had a goal cancelled out for supposedly being offside before putting it away, which I've got to be honest, in all honesty, I don't think it was. But when it comes to VAR decisions, I just let it be. I don't allow myself to get riled up about it, because part of me feels like that's what VAR is put there to do. It's there to provide or provoke anger and a narrative in and of itself. So I just let that be, to be honest, for my own sanity, I think. And I think it was Richarlison put a header away from a corner, but Ben Godfrey was adjudicated to have been in the eyesight of the goalkeeper in an offside position. Again, it's just one of those that, luck not going your way, and I'm certainly accustomed to that. I remember Abdoulaye Doucouré having an early chance in the first half, which he should have put away as well. And aside from the not putting your chances away, when they present themselves, I just thought the overall performance as a whole was very, very disappointing. With the exception of probably Alan. It was great to see Richarlison back out there. That we've missed him so significantly in the last few games. Obviously, he did play really well against Fulham, but he didn't have one of his typical performances, which I do hate to say because, as every Evertonian, I'm a huge fan of Richarlison, and I'm well aware of the lad's capabilities, and it was just one of those performances where he didn't live up to what we expect. Maybe if that goal is given, then his performance sort of takes a different turn, but it wasn't to be. And again, it was sort of one of those games that watching on Sky Sports, I don't know, maybe the broadcast package as a whole sort of deterred me from the game. The pre-match build-up from the likes of Graham Souness and the commentary from Jamie Carragher, hailing Leeds as a tremendous side. Don't get me wrong, they are, they're a great side for a side that's come up from the Championship, under the stewardship of a very esteemed coach and Marcelo Bielsa. Then by that standard, they are a solid, forward-thinking, pragmatic side, but I understand. Don't get me wrong. Being a one club city, it's very marketable for media to put Leeds out there, and set them up as some big giant killers. And I suppose that sort of plays into the psyche of their players as well. They can go to places like Goodison and really give Everton a game, which they did. Don't get me wrong. I've just got the stats up from the game on who scored here, and they put Jordan Pickford to work. They had 23 shots. See how many of those were on target. 6 of those were on target. However, Everton had more shots on target. Everton had 15 shots, which is obviously lesser in comparison to Leeds 23, but had 8 shots on target. Again, which is sort of very frustrating, because one of the things most noticeable about Carlo Ancelotti's Everton side is that just by ratio of shots, they always seem to have more than the opposition, which it doesn't take a genius to figure out. If you shoot more, you'll score more goals. But this was just one of these days that the performances weren't up to scratch, and we didn't take our chances when they presented themselves. And I think because of that, Leeds just grew in confidence. The likes of Luke Ayling and Calvin Phillips sort of rose to the occasion and were sort of the instigators of the pressure that Leeds put on Everton. Leeds had much more of the ball as well. Leeds had almost 60% possession, which I don't think people would disagree with me in saying that shouldn't be happening at Goodison Park. Maybe if there's fans in there, then it's a different story, and I guess we'll find out against Chelsea coming up this Saturday on the 12th of December at Goodison Park. But as a whole, this was a very disappointing loss and a hard one to take, considering that I think we've sort of put it into our mentality now, especially given the good start, that when we're up against sides that we consider lesser than us, that we should be putting them to bed, especially when we are creating the chances. I think Alan was the only player there that covered himself in any glory, putting in a good shift, of course, up and down the pitch, many tackles, And at the end of the day, it was a late winner by Rafinha, cracking young player, signed from Rennes, I think, in the summer, and it was just a moment of magic. He sort of picks up the ball outside the 18-yard box, and he looks to play the pass, but there's no passes on, so he just picks his head up. Unfortunately, he gets the shot off. It goes through the legs of Ben Godfrey, and obviously that put Jordan Pickford at a disadvantage in terms of his field of vision, and the ball goes into the bottom corner. And Everton could not muster up an equaliser or any sort of attacking threat from that. But as I say, when you sort of look at that in the retrospect of having, 2 disallowed goals, very, very frustrating, and something that I think we all are accustomed to as Evertonians. You'd like to think this season has a different feel to it, but as I say, a few more results like that, then who knows, might be another sort of mediocre season. But now to get on to the Burnley game. Onto the Burnley game. Now, I've just watched the highlights back of that, and Jesus Christ, that miss by Sigurdsson. Still can't help but be irked by it, really. I tweeted after the game that, you get a chance like that in the 90th minute to win the game, and you miss it, like Sigurdsson does. I think that's the difference between a good side and a great side. Great side to take those opportunities and pick up points late in games, and just take it as a formality, the result. But Everton just seemed to be a bridge away from that, it seems. What can you say, really? It's again one of those results similar to the Leeds game that just make you think. Yes, we didn't have as many chances as we did against Leeds, but we really should have come away with the 3 points there. Obviously, Burnley start fast out the blocks. Robbie Brady scores his first goal in a while, 3 minutes in. Another goal from outside the 18-yard box, which is a common occurrence with Everton. I think maybe it's the new system with the back three, and the midfield in this game against Burnley were a far cry from what they usually are. Alan, in contrast to his performance against Leeds, didn't play particularly well, nor did Decore for that matter, and they just allow far too much time and space to Robbie Brady, nor does Michael Keane, Captain Michael Keane, get out to close the ball down, or any of his fellow defenders. And I say Captain Michael Keane, and that this did feel like one of those performances where we had a makeshift captain, someone not used to holding the post as captain. Obviously, Mason Holgate wore the armband for the very first time against Leeds, which I failed to make note of, which I think has a lot of potential for the future. But again, I hate being in this situation where we're sort of without a standout captain, of course. And I failed to mention before the absence of Seamus Coleman. I feel even in his 30s, it's still much missed. It wasn't the best of days for attackers, to be honest. Everton had 13 shots. Just 6 of those were on target. And in fairness to him, Nick Pope, Burnley goalkeeper, played an absolute blinder, making some really crucial saves. One from Decore earlier on, and then several throughout the course of the game. One against James Rodriguez springs to mind. I think that was in the second half. But before we get on to that, although I did sort of slate Richarlison for his performance against Leeds, he showed in glimpses, unfortunately not consistency, what he's capable of when he's on the same pitch as Dominic Calvert-Lewin, which has proven a spectacular partnership. He obviously gets in and around Calvert-Lewin, which I think they both mutually benefit from. And you know, inside the Burnley's half, we sort of push forward, get the ball out to Richarlison. Richarlison plays the ball into the box, and Calvert-Lewin, like a true Everton number 9, gets in where it hurts, slides the ball in the back of the net, and puts some distance between him and the rest of the league. In regards to goals scored, he's the top goal scorer in the Premier League now, and I think that's 14 in all competitions for the season. And I say, without key players, the lad seems to be like the only one on the pitch that's capable of scoring goals, and full credit to him and his sort of resurgence under Carlo Ancelotti, who I do also feel deserves a lot of credit for the rise of Calvert-Lewin, if you will. But and I do hate to say it, because Carlo Ancelotti knows more about me and everybody watching this video put together, that I do think Ancelotti's at fault for the persistence with the change of system, with the back three. He's obviously put Alex Iwobi in as a wing back, and for on the other side for this game put in Fabian Delph, which sort of beggars belief, and I don't think I'm alone in saying that. On Iwobi, I think credit where credit's due. He did play well against Fulham, but if you're going to play right wing back again, I think you're going to get found out in a sort of, if you've got a one-dimensional game. And don't get me wrong, the lad's good with carrying the ball when he's got it at his feet and pushing it forward. But I just think his spatial awareness and understanding of tracking back and defensive responsibility, obviously as the lad's not a wing back, it's going to take some time for him to acclimatise to that. And on the other side, Fabian Delph, why you're playing a plus 30-year-old that's prone to injury as a wide back that's got to get up and down the line, God knows, and that that obviously proved to his demise within the game. Went off after pulling his hamstring after making a turn on the ball. And don't get me wrong, I was one of these people that thought that the acquisition of Fabian Delph really would have done Everton well. But it turned out not to be. He spent more time injured than he has on the pitch, and as I say, I was one of those players when I played. I spent more time in the bleeding physio's room than on the actual pitch, but I just don't think it was a smart move now, looking back on it. The switcher system, obviously they went back to a 4-3-3 then, with the introduction of Andre Gomez, who played well for the remainder of the game, and sort of brought out the best of the players around him. Alan went into a more holding role and played a bit better, not as good as usual. And this again, Rodriguez went out wide rather than the central role that the back three allows him to be in. And I still think that we're in it's still, I would say, a period of transition for James Rodriguez coming into the Premier League. Obviously he had such a great start, and loads of people were saying that he'd struggle, but all players have got to acclimatise, I suppose, to some degree. Yes, it's still the same game, it's still football, but that sort of, what's my best position? Where am I going to be most effective on the pitch? Do I understand the strengths and weaknesses of all the players around me? And Rodriguez has just been a bit hit and miss at times, and that's not entirely his fault. As I say, the sort of system change around him not going to be doing him any favours if he's not fully aware of the strengths and weaknesses of those around him. As I say, I've just outlined a few of the weaknesses of the side there, especially when we're playing the back three. And I've seen someone say apologies to all Colombians who've gone from watching Real Madrid and Bayern Munich to having to get up at 4:30 in the morning to watch Everton play at Burnley away. And I think to sort of look at ending more on a higher note, huge sort of commendations to Ben Godfrey for his performance, where some people have lacked. I think Ben Godfrey really has stood up and been one of the few that the new system has come to the benefit of. I feel like he plays much better in a more central position. Obviously he's sort of on the right of the back three, but in regards to his performances, I don't think you can fault him all too much. Positionally for his age, I think, what is he, 22, 23, great understanding of where he needs to be and when. Some great tackles, interceptions, and I think he's going to have a good career. And everybody's favourite subject, Jordan Pickford, was getting lambasted for letting yet another goal in from outside the area. As I say, I point to different factors such as the position of the back line and the defence not getting in the face of the man on the ball enough. But without Jordan Pickford in this game, we certainly would have lost. Come out with some cracking saves. I think a save from Chris Wood from a header. And just on several other occasions, some great saves. Probably in this instant outshined by Nick Pope, because Nick Pope was called upon a few more times, with Gareth Southgate watching on, interestingly. So for those that do give a shit about England, we'll see who Gareth Southgate looks to prefer as England number one going forward. But yeah, end of the day, should have took the 3 points. Cracking ball through by Rodriguez to Sigurdsson, who bluffs his lines and puts it straight at the keeper. Should have been buried in the bottom corner, and we should be talking about Everton picking up 3 points and getting back into the top four. But never the easy way, is it? So thank you for listening, and for those lucky bastards who were successful in the ballot, I hope you have the best of times back at Goodison for Chelsea. I think it's an evening kick-off on Saturday, and as I say, I am absolutely devastated not to be there because I've missed it so much. And it's quite getting me down, the fact that I'm not being able to go to the game when people are there. Hopefully Everton can turn this poor vein of form around against Chelsea, which looks unlikely. But, you know, we've seen it before. We've seen Everton rise to the occasion against big sides at Goodison in the past. Hopefully the 2,000 fans can make a difference. So if you've made it this far, thank you very much for listening to me ramble on about Everton's two underwhelming performances as of late. Make sure you're checking out Grand Old Team across all their platforms. Take care, everyone. Ta-ra.